We are too grown for this bullshit. What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Omnius Podcast. This is episode 86. As you can see, we are in a different setting for this podcast episode because I am in St. Petersburg for the Royal Rumble, which I went to yesterday. It was a lovely establishment, wonderful experience. Never experienced it before. And to be with other people that share the same passion that I have for wrestling, it was amazing. All right. I might make a vlog video about it. I think that would do views. I think that would definitely do views on Instagram or YouTube or both. So I put that together very soon. All right. Thinking about it. I'll think about it between today and tomorrow. But anywho, yeah, great experience. I will give the pay-per-view like an 8 out of 10. I mean, the crowd was popping. I mean, we was live. There's really nothing else to put into it. I'm gonna be very soft-spoken as it is. I'm gonna be very soft-spoken in this video specifically because throat is a little sore. All right, I have drunk coffee, I've gargled, shebang. I've been using less words, trying not to talk as much. Everything. All right. My throat is sore because it's a little sore because of all the yelling that I was doing, yelling my head off at the pay-per-view yesterday. So bear with me. All right. Till then, thank you for tuning in with me in this podcast episode as we go down the basis of this particular topic, which is off the dome. I don't have any notes. I don't have any cup or like any planning behind this because this is just something I wanted to get off my chest, something that I'm personally going through, and I know there might be some fellas and some women out there who might personally be going through this as well within our age range between 21 and 24. I'm about to make 25 next month, egregiously. In this podcast episode, I started out the podcast saying like we too grown for this BS. Too grown, too mature, way in our age to go through certain things in life when it concerns relationships. And I do truly feel that communication is key. You ever hear that these in a cartoon or in a movie? What we have here is a failure to communicate. That's what I truly feel when it concerns our generation. A lot of us fail to communicate the way that we should. And we go based off of our emotions and based off of how we feel. We become immature. We become very childish in the way that we deal with other people. An old friend, a person who used to be my friend, just recently hit me up. And I really had to go about this communication thing. I had to really put pen to paper and put whatever I talk about into practice. Because the petty and shady side of me was like, don't give her any time of the day. But, going back on our history between me and her, we share a lot of great moments, a lot of great memories and stuff. That's no validation to bring somebody like that back into my life. But at the same time, if that person was to say like, I've really matured from that time, I wasn't really in the right headspace, etc., I'm willing to forgive and really see if that person has changed for the better. And there are people in my life who have come to me personally and have said like, what the type of timing I used to be on, I'm not in no more. And they are still in my life today. And I blankly make it known to them, like, if you go spin back around on that toxic stuff again, you're not going to be in my life for the rest of my life. So you either in it or you out. And from there on, we haven't had any type of issues or problems since then, And that's the thing that I truly hate when it comes to ending friendships. I don't know if you ever ended a friendship off of stupid stuff, but I'm too old at my grown age to no longer be friends or to discommunicate with somebody because of little stuff. So when somebody asks you, why you no longer friends with Tyrone? He didn't text back. He didn't call me. I heard somebody said that he told me that he said something about me. Oh girl, he fake. He wouldn't even shout me out. He wouldn't even do this. Things that we can just openly communicate about and blatantly resolve. But you're too petty. You got too much ego. Too arrogant to really sit down with me and have a conversation about something that you have an issue with. I'm not for it. I'm currently not in communications with one of my friends. Because of what? I don't know. For some reason, some way, somehow, it always ends up with you having to apologize. It always ends up with you having to try and reach out to that person instead of that person reaching out to you when they started the issue, when they started the problem, when they couldn't own up to their mistakes, when they couldn't hold themselves accountable. Now it's always pushed back on you. No, you don't owe anybody that form of validation in a sense. You don't owe anybody the necessary action to always reach out to them when they were the ones in the wrong, when they were the ones that slipped up, when they always blaming you and gaslighting you. And well, you made me act this way, or you know how I get sometimes. All these cop-outs from them owning up to their own mistakes and trying to reach out to you, putting aside their ego to savor something greater. I have lost great friendships over stupid stuff. Some of those issues and some of those friendships were lost because of my expense. And I own up to those. It's not always easy to accept it. It's not always easy to deal with it. But those are particular relationships that I have to own up to that I messed up on. However, with some of the friendships and relationships that I was not responsible for in terms of miscommunication or no longer associated with, those also hurt as well. And because I have such a big heart, I have to learn how to reevaluate how I deal with people. I have to learn how to reevaluate how I deal with certain situations. Because for people who are really in my circle, for people who truly care about me and value my time, I have to value those people. I have to put those people on a pedestal because those people are not just there for a good time. They're there through the ups and downs. They're there for me as much as I'm going to be there for them. That's how I see a friendship. I don't see a friendship ending because miscommunication. For all we know, if there's miscommunication between one to the other person, you don't know what that other individual might be going through. You see what I'm saying? So you might want to reach out to that person. Ask them if they are okay, if they want to talk something out. But it does vary. The situation I was telling you about recently, if you clearly communicated about your stance on something and they still are in disagreement and they feel like you being whatever the case is, you being icky or whatever the case is, you stand 10 toes on how you feel and you keep it moving. We are too damn grown at our grown age to no longer be in communication with certain people because of she say, he didn't text back, she didn't text back, the call, his opinion, her opinion, what they said about me. These things can be resolved at such a quicker pace if we just put aside our ego and really look at the bigger picture. Like I said before, I have a big heart, and that's something that I have had to learn along the way. And, throughout this whole journey, especially in 2023, of going through this transformation, I like to call it, because I was broken. To be vulnerable with you for a little moment, I was broken. There came a point in my life where I became stagnant, and I went from being stagnant to then being comfortable being stagnant. And there was a pattern in my life that I could not grab a hold of, and I didn't understand it. And no matter how hard I tried to fight against it, I couldn't fight against it because I let my fear get the best of me. And because of that, it may have sabotaged a lot of good things that could have happened in my life. At the same time, certain actions of certain people, because of whatever I was going through in my personal journey, my personal spiritual journey, I'm not responsible for, and it's not my fault. You see what I'm saying? When you as an individual, whatever particular journey that you're going on, in whatever particular spiritual journey that you're going on, and whatever you have to personally battle within yourself. If people, they take advantage of that, or they manipulate you, or whatever the case is, you have to be very aware of that. If you're somebody who is very easygoing and you have to struggle with being assertive, you can't fault yourself because of certain people who have tried to manipulate you, or certain people who have taken advantage of you, or who have tried to take advantage of you, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's your boss, whether it's a co-worker, whether it's somebody who is superior, in terms of a job position, or, peers, or whatever the case is. You have to accept your flaws for what they are. You have to accept your shortcomings for what they are. And you have to make a decision in your life on what am I going to do about these shortcomings. They are a part of you. They make you who you are and what you are. Now, what are you going to do about it? Are we going to shape and mold these flaws into pleasures? Are we going to shape and mold these flaws into perfections? Or are we just going to continue to moan and complain, and bitch around about these so-called flaws? For me personally, sometimes I have an issue procrastinating. Sometimes I have an issue, saying something and then putting word to action. Whether it's caused certain things to happen in certain relationships that I've had, I can't fault myself or condemn myself or shame myself because of certain people. Whether it's one of my homies, whether it's people that I've had relationships with, whatever the case is, I can't fault myself for the actions of other people. Everything, at the same time, it all goes back to you. You have to hold yourself accountable to how you have carried yourself. Because if you can't keep your own word, what does that say in terms of how you lead your own life? If you can't keep your own word as a man, what makes you think people are going to see you as a leader? If you can't even lead your own life in the right way, what makes you think that people want you to lead them? It's the little things. If you can't even clean up your own life, or better yet, if you can't even clean up your own room, if you can't even organize your own room, how can you then try to organize your own life? Now, some people may have a well-organized life, and it might be a little junky. But the point I'm getting at here is that when it comes to our flaws and our shortcomings and the things that we might be insecure about, these, I feel, are the advantage. These are disadvantages given to us in our spiritual journey so that we can turn these disadvantages into benefits. I feel like with our disadvantages and, with the things that cause us to have shortcomings, this is like the little challenges in our spiritual journey in which we have to figure out how to overcome these obstacles to then better ourselves, But it all goes back and it circles around to some type of source or whatever type of trauma. Everybody has their own backstory. But you can't use your backstory or your insecurities or your fears or whatever the case is as an excuse. You have to do your own self-internal work. And what I would do, that got me to the place where I am today, is that I had to suffer in order for me to become the person that I am today. And it's unfortunate, but from June of 2023, I will always tell myself, I'm going to be different. I'm going to change. I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do. Because I used to have an issue sometimes of saying I would do something and I wouldn't put any power behind it. And it got to a point where people that I really valued in my life started to distrust me, or they started to lack having trust and faith in me. But see, at the same time, it's not always about what people see in you and how people see you. Sometimes it just has to be you and you alone. Even if other people don't believe you, even if other people don't see the vision, they don't see the process in how you're going to go about certain things. So July comes around, and I'm still trying to put pen to paper. And mind you, I want you to understand that this programming of you trying to reprogram yourself to do certain stuff is not always going to be easy. You're going to still have your shortcomings every now and then. It's not always going to be easy for you to overcome the things that make you ick, the things that make you stand out, the things that you might think cause you to fail. But at the same time, this is the opportunities that we are given so that we can turn these trials, these tests into testimonies, that we can turn our lemons into lemon cake. So we get into July, and we get into August. August, terrible. About as terrible as July. We get into September, October, now things are starting to turn around. November, we get into December, and now we get into January, and I evaluate everything from June, July, all the way up until now. And, something else that if I could be vulnerable with you for a moment, I've been journaling, my emotions and what I've been feeling within the past 6-7 months, because I was not in a good place mentally in July and August. There was a time where I was on the peak. I felt like I was on the peak of my content when it came to content creating and spiritual content, like back in May and June. And I felt like after June passed and then July came in, August, I felt like I kind of fell off. Personally, I feel like I fell off in terms of content creating. Now, it may not have looked that way because I'm a very consistent person when it comes to content. And maybe in this aspect, I might be a little too hard on myself. You might be listening to me and be like, well, Tyrone, I don't see that in you. I don't see you being inconsistent and all those other stuff. I think you're being a little too hard on yourself. And we'll get to that aspect in a second. But, I felt like my content dropped off. It fell off a little bit, getting into July and August. And if you could listen to my podcast episodes during that time, if you could listen to my YouTube videos during that time, I was not in a good headspace whatsoever. I was struggling, and I don't know if you remember the podcast episode that I did when I said, I'm getting ready to be in a relationship. Yeah, I'm content. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is at the end of the day. Have my little fun and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens as the days and the months and the time goes by and stuff like that. But, yeah, I think I've been preparing my mind for it. So that's what's been going on. I'm about to be out the game. And, the lyrics to my I'm ready to give you all my love type of thing. So things of that nature. Your boy about to be out of the game. Terrible. Worst thing I could have ever done. Because after I did that podcast episode and I go to the girl and I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about really just settling down. We can try and pursue something further. She's like, oh no.
Oh no, I don't want to pursue anything further with you.
Had me in for a loop. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to, take in that type of information. We've been, you know what I'm saying? You talking to a girl, you've been knowing a girl for a certain while, and you visualize yourself with this girl for the long run. You are willing to at least figure out, or try to think of ideas or ways that you can be with this person, whether it's, through thick and thin, whether it's you have to really go the extra mile, whatever the case is. But there was too much harm and damage done emotionally on both ends, to such a point where, looking back at it now, there was no substance anymore. There was no longer any good substance for our relationship to hold on to in terms of really having a good relationship, being boyfriend and girlfriend. And so when she said, like, I don't want to pursue, I'm not looking to pursue anything further with you other than being friends, possibly. It hurt. It's, for men don't really explain or express themselves when it comes to hurt. It's a different type of hurt that it took me a while to really grasp, because there's a lot of in denial when it came to that hurt. To deal with rejection, and not just rejection from a girl, but rejection from somebody that you thought was your lover, your possible soulmate, and to hear them say, like, I can't see myself any further with you anymore, and it got to a point where, because of my shortcomings and because of the things that I was personally battling, that I couldn't even really emotionally express the best way that I could. I kept faulting myself for not doing certain stuff that I could have done, right? Or should have done, could have done, would have done, It got to a point in my life I started to really speak bad about myself. And I have it journalized. I won't share my journal to the world. If I do, it'll be years from now. But I was in a bad spot in my life to where, and of course I didn't portray that because it didn't go with my brand, and it ain't nobody business for that time. I feel like I can speak about it now because there is a message to this, and I want to bring that type of vulnerability to my podcast, because for those who really taken the time to listen to me and to hear what I have to say, shout out to y'all. Y'all get a different side of me. There's many different aspects to me. And so to hear that and having to really go through that on the emotional level going into August and then going into September, it was terrible. And it got to a point to where, like, sometimes I would try to be in denial. Sometimes I would, like, there's no way that we can't be together. There's no way that me and her can't, you know what I'm saying? It's just, we've gone too far. We've gone through too much. And I think with that type of hurt, that's what causes some men to no longer pursue relationships, to no longer pursue love, because they can't see themselves trying to rebuild that same connection with any other girl. Because they're like, if this could possibly happen again, I'd rather just not deal with it altogether. If I have to go through this type of hurt, if I have to go through this type of rebuilding, making new memories with a girl that I'm thinking, like, we're going to be in it for the long run, and then this happens again, I might as well just do me. No pun intended. I might as well just do battle by myself and just become high value, as, you hear some of these men say. And so that's what typically happens with some of us fellas. We no longer want to pursue relationships. We no longer want to pursue marriage. We don't want to pursue having a soulmate because we are scared to hurt. We are scared to feel. We are scared to be emotional. We are scared to cry. Not only, because of what it might, how it might make us look, in terms of us as a man, but internally how it makes us feel as men, because we struggle between this concept of being vulnerable and being expressive, and then being a man and, manning up and rough around the edges and having a cold shoulder, or being a loner, being nonchalant. And because men struggle between being a man, quote unquote, in terms of how society sees men, and being expressive and emotional and intact with your heart and intact with your emotions, you struggle between people seeing you as soft and then people seeing you as an asshole. And unfortunately, some men think that there's more strength in being an asshole than being vulnerable. And it's a sad case. And it's not something that I'm not even going to take the time to try and combat, because think about it. If men don't have the space to be vulnerable with a woman, if men don't have the availability to express themselves like the way they want to and they need to, then what choice are they left with? If they are dealing with a woman, or if they are dealing with women who look at men as soft or lesser than because of how they express themselves or how they express their emotions, or they are willing to manipulate or take advantage of or look down upon or shame men because of how they express themselves emotionally as men, then what choice are they left with? They are left with none other choice than to be the asshole that you love to chase, to be the hoodlum that you love to be under, the bad boy that you always having dreamy eyes over. Not because they want to, but it's almost as if that's what protects them. That's what makes them keep on going in life. Because they can't risk doing the self-work. They can't risk healing and becoming a example of a good man. For me, I have too much of a good heart and a good soul to ever go down that villain arc. And I remember I was having this conversation with one of my very close friends, and I'm like, I feel like I'm about to go on the villain arc. I feel like I'm really, like if I really let go of being emotional, I'm gonna be a person that I won't even like. And my friend had to stop me real quick, and she had to tell me, that's not the person that I know you are, and that's not the person I want you to become, because you are so much more than just being an asshole. You're so much more than just having your own villain arc and running through holes and all this other stuff. You have so much love to give, so much passion, so much inspiration, that you're bigger than that. And there's women out there who value men who are intact with their emotions, who have a big heart, who are willing to think outside the box, who are creative. And you don't want to ruin your moment to deal with those women or to interact and involve yourself with those women because of your ego. And that hit me. It got me right back on the right path. Like, you're right. I'm not going to ruin my moment, my opportunity to be with good women just because I'm internally hurting right now because of what she might think of me, or these toxic women, or whatever society might say, or how I might be looked upon. That's all ego based. And you have to get to a point where it's not about what they think about you. It's not about how the world might see you. And even more so, you have to also do some internal work within yourself and really deal with, how do you see yourself? Because if you want to be somebody who is loving and caring, there's a way to go about that. And there's a way to do that without being deemed soft, weak, inferior, effeminate, and so on. And see, like, another thing when it comes to men is that whenever men try to express themselves, because women are so emotionally intact, and some women are a little more articulate than men, it's almost like as if, in a conversation sense, that a woman is more valid in her emotional feels than a man would be in how he positions himself on a logical basis. You see what I'm saying? Because when a man is talking to a woman and they're trying to express how they feel or what's going on, it's almost like they're talking in two different languages. Because while a man is looking at things from a more critical perspective, she is looking at things from a more emotional perspective. And the man is supposed to redirect those emotions on an intellectual basis. And the woman is supposed to look at his intellect and add some softness to it. And it's supposed to be a flow. Not hashing out and punching and fighting and I hate you and this and you ain't nothing and you ain't never going to amount. That's what we tend to do when it comes to these type of conversations. This is why men do this and this is why women do this and well, y'all would. And we shame ourselves for being who we are. Men shame women for being feminine and emotional, and then the women shame the men for thinking they know it all and they all big and bad and they got, for being the logical and the intellect, the divine masculine. And y'all supposed to bring both sides to the conversation to come to some form of reconciliation or harmony. So we think that we have to come to an understanding of one another in order for us to sound the same. That's not how it always goes. We think that we always have to be on the same page. We have to speak the same language. But sometimes it has to take for one of us to listen, to understand. And both individuals have to lay aside their ego in order for them to get to a solution. But a lot of men have a lot of ego, and a lot of women have a lot of ego. So whenever it comes to arguments and these conversations, some women, they always want to go and pull something from the back. They always want to pull something from the past. Men do it as well in relationships as well. And they can never deal with the here and now. Sometimes when a man is struggling, he's trying to find change, his woman has lost so much faith in him that she no longer becomes his inspiration. She becomes a burden. She no longer becomes his inspiration. She becomes a headache. And so while he's trying to change and trying to be the person, the man that he knows he can be, and the man that he could be for her, her eyes are no longer on him anymore. She's no longer the nurturer for him. She's looking somewhere else. And that's a sad, sad reality. That's a sad predicament to be in when you're a man that loves a woman and you don't know how to deal with your emotions the right way. Or maybe you are dealing with them the best way that you know how, but they may not be good enough for her because you might be speaking in a way that she doesn't understand you. Maybe she's being too hard on you. Maybe she's not even trying to look to understand you. And she may have told you multiple times that she's not looking to understand you. At that moment, what can you do? You feel like you can't walk away because this is the person for you. But you feel like if you stay, you're just going to deteriorate. You're going to lose it. So what do? Another thing is that sometimes women want men to express themselves how women express themselves. And that can never be the case for a real man. Sometimes a man expresses himself how he's supposed to because he's a man. Sometimes men want women to express themselves on some form of a critical and logical basis like they do. And that can never be the case because women are a lot, very much intact with their emotions. And you might hear this and be like, well, what's the solution? The solution is to listen to one another and respond in a way that they will listen to you. You hear what I'm saying? Nobody's taken away from how you express yourself. Express yourself the way that you do. But in order for there to be a response in a communication, in a bond, in a conversation, you have to respond to that person the way that they are going to listen. If you express your emotions on a logical basis, express yourself logically. If you express yourself on an emotional, intellectual basis, do that. But that other person needs to find a way to communicate with you on your language base so that y'all can have a back and forth dialogue, so that y'all can have some form of reconciliation and understanding. So while she's expressing herself emotionally, you respond to her emotions, and then you also realign yourself in your statement logically. If that woman cannot express or respond to you intellectually, emotionally, intellectually, you have to cut her off. She's not the one for you. And if a woman is expressing herself to you emotionally and you fail to respond to her on an emotional level or in a way that she can understand you better, or in a way that she can respect what you're saying, then you may not be for her. She may need to cut you off. And I think a lot in terms of I won't even say our generation, I'll just say in this modern time, we lack the example. How should I word this? I feel like in this generation, we don't have much representation of emotional intelligence. And we don't have much of an example of how to deal with love, how to deal with emotions, how to deal with the bickering and the hashing out and the arguments between a lover, between soulmates. And we see so much negativity on social media to where people in our generation lose hope for love. We have negative experiences, and then we get on social media, and those negative things that we see on social media is almost like a form of validation of the negative experiences that we're experiencing in our life. And we're like, well, if I'm experiencing negative stuff and I'm seeing stuff on social media that's negative, then my negative experience must be reality. And yet, little do you know that your negative experiences is just one aspect of life, one small speck of life. All you have to do is make the change. All you have to do is just change the way that you see your own reality, change the way that you see love, change the way that you see women. For women, change the way that you see men, and you could find the man of your dreams. You could change the way that you see women and find the woman of your dreams. But all that starts from the mind. And I say this time and time again in my social media posts, that you can't be a man or a woman trying to find love and you're spewing out hate. You're spewing out negativity. All these men out here talking about, this is why I ain't gonna get married. When you know women value marriage. Men value marriage too, but when you really hear in the conversation of like getting married, women value marriage. Women want to get married. They want to have children in the matrimony of a man. So it's almost like a slap in the face for you as a man to be like, I don't want to get married. I'm not looking to get married. And yet the woman of your dreams wants to get married and have children under that sanction of marriage. For women, it's a backhand. It's a slap in the face to men when you go out here talking about how you don't need a man and men are trash and men are this and men are that and I can do independent, I can be bad all by myself and I don't need a man. No man is looking to marry you or get in a relationship with you, and yet you over here talking about you don't need a man. I don't dress for men. I don't do this for men. Ain't no man looking your way with you talking like that. No man is going to be looking your way with you talking like that. It's just not going to be. You could talk all that talk. You can talk that sass all you want. But no man is going to be looking your way and you talking about how strong and independent you are. So you fellas, you have to get to a point of laying aside your ego and really doing your own internal work, because a lot of us suffer from trauma, whether it's in the household, whether it's with past relationships. And because we suffer from this trauma, we think that our scars makes us men. We think that our wounds makes us strong, and they don't. Especially when those scars and those wounds are infected. Healing those wounds make you strong. They make you a man. Getting your wounds and your scars treated, that makes you a man, that makes you strong. But being a wounded wolf out here, wanting to be a loner, wanting to be by yourself, don't wanting any help, don't wanting a woman's help. I don't understand how men can respect the wolf like that. How can the wolf pack expect the wolf or respect the wolf like that? But to conclude this podcast episode, because I know I've probably been going on for a little bit, when it comes to our emotions as men, a lot of women do not value the emotions of men. They do not value how a man feels, because a lot of men keep in their emotions because women do not know how to take the blunt and direct feelings of a man. When a man speaks how he feels emotionally, a good amount of women cannot take it in. They can't eternalize it. They can't digest it. We have to digest everything that a woman, well, in context, right? We don't have to, and no man is, let me just make some disclaimers. No man should ever be put in a position of feeling like he has to hear everything that a woman is just throwing at him and nagging and all this trash. But in retrospect, right? When it comes to the emotions of a woman, a man is supposed to sit there and take in everything that a woman feels emotionally and supposed to turn the shit into daisies. Whereas for a man, when he expresses himself emotionally, all of a sudden, here comes the name calling. Here comes the deflection. Here comes the gaslighting. When a man expresses himself emotionally, this is why a man doesn't want to express himself emotionally to a woman. He don't want to open up to a woman, because the moment that he feels like he's going to get manipulated. He feels like he's going to get taken advantage of. He feels like that woman will truly value him as a man because she likes a man who is to himself. She likes a man who's nonchalant. She likes a man that has a little hurt to him. Got a couple of wounds that haven't been licked yet. It is what it is. But I made this podcast to let you know that you don't have to be that way. You don't have to be a man that has to hold in your emotions. You're not obligated to. If you gotta find you a therapist or a really good friend who is very wise in your friend section, do so. Do your own personal settings of journaling, counseling, therapy, something, in order for you to get your emotions out and really practice being emotionally intelligent. Because cutting yourself off emotionally is only hindering you in your spiritual journey. You have to realign yourself with your emotions in order for you to advance as the divine masculine. And if you are a Christian or somebody who upholds the Bible, your God even says that it is not healthy. It is not good for a man to be alone. That a man must leave his father and mother to cleave to a woman and become one with that woman. Every hero runs off with the princess and lives happily ever after. When are you going to make that change for your life? When are you going to find your princess? When are you going to take the necessary change to advance and respect the divine masculine or the divine feminine in a woman? A lot of men in this generation sometimes have been taught to push aside their emotions because she say. Because of social media and what's shown on social media, sometimes it's how they were growing up. When they were little, they being taught to man up and don't cry and only soft men cry and everything like that. I broke down last year. Broke down in front of somebody that I thought was going to be my soulmate. Broke down in front of them. And shortly, not too long after that, it didn't work out. The months of me trying to juggle that in my mind to really try to deal with that on an emotional basis, shaming myself, condemning myself of like, this is something that I've been struggling with for more than just this year. I could date this back to high school. This runs deep with a lot of men when it comes to emotions. And you might think it might be a little childish, like high school? Yes. There are men who are 24, 25 years old who have been dealing with certain things about themselves emotionally that dates all the way back to high school. It just takes one moment, one little situation, something that involves a woman or a certain situation, and they carry that burden with them until they make the change to no longer carry that burden. And I had to make a change. I had to make a decision that I was no longer going to carry a burden of shaming myself for my misdeeds or for my shortcomings, and accept and forgive myself that I'm not perfect, that I'm going to make mistakes, that I'm in a learning process. And if the people that I thought were supposed to be in my life for a longer season are no longer there, then there is a reason for that. And once you forgive yourself and you love yourself and you hug yourself, you can move on a lot better. And I think the issue with a lot of us men is that we be so hard on ourselves that we don't forgive ourselves. We don't love ourselves like we should. How many men go through depression? How many men go through like a lot of emotional trauma, and they just hold and they push all their emotions inside of them? And all they need is a good hug and a good cry out. But they've been conditioned to think that crying and being vulnerable is weak. And that's all they need is somebody to talk to. All they need is a good cry out. And so I made this podcast episode to let you know that you're not alone in this. And I'm hoping that this podcast episode is something that can encourage you to actually look more into your emotions, look more into your experiences with yourself, of why you can't get over that certain situation with that one girl, or why you can't get over, being expressive emotionally, why you can't get over being inconsistent. Why is it that you always stop, you stop at your dreams? Why do you hinder yourself from accomplishing the things that you know that you can accomplish? It's not going to happen overnight. It might take you a month, maybe 2, maybe 3 months for you to finally get back on course. Are you willing to do the necessary work? Are you willing to take up to 60 to 90 days to really get back on your shit? Some people don't have it in them. but do you? What do you have to lose? Are you going to waste 3 months complaining, 3 months moaning and bitching about what you could have did, what you should have did, and what you didn't do, and why you did that? Are you going to waste 3 months? The next 3 months, you're going to be in March and April talking about, she broke my heart, and why didn't I just treat her better? And I could have loved her. And you go over here text her, I'm sorry. Please accept me. Take me back, please. I want you back. Or are you going to take those 3 months to invest that love into yourself, forgiving yourself, and knowing that even though you may have messed up with one girl, there's somebody out there that's better for you? That lesson that you had with that one girl doesn't even amount to the woman that the universe or the Most High or God has in store for you. You have to look at it in that aspect. Sometimes even the girls that you might be in a relationship or that you might be dealing with right now, and you might think it's all over, sometimes it may just not be your season. She might spin the block in the next 1 to 2 years, be like, oh, he back with his stuff. That doesn't mean you should just immediately accept her back, because there's some women that spin the block and they pushed you off to the side when they didn't see the light in you. They didn't see the person that you saw in yourself. And now that you have manifested that person into reality, now they want to come back around. They want to reap the harvest. They want to take responsibility for your growth. You ever had women try to take responsibility for your growth? You ever hear women talk about, oh, I done build these niggas, and every time that we break off, there they go trying to be a better person. There they go trying to be better and trying to take accountability, trying to take responsibility for another man's accomplishments, for a man getting back on his stuff. Ain't that something? I never understood that. Women responsibility for that man's growth after they done broke it off with them. You didn't put in the work in the gym that they had to go 5-6 times a week. You wasn't there. You wasn't there when he was crying and crying himself to sleep and figuring out life. You wasn't there. You wasn't there for him to try and figure out how to express himself the way that he needed to and express his emotions and be more articulate and start to love himself more. You wasn't there for that journey. You may have woke him up. You know what I'm saying? You may have caused some type of shift and shook him to the point where he wanted to get back on his stuff. But you hold no responsibility for the work that he put in. No, ma'am. You do not get to take the trophy home and saying, I did all the work. No, you didn't go to practice. You didn't buy the books that he had to buy. You didn't take the notes he had to take. You didn't put in the necessary brain work and the strategies that he had to put in. You didn't do it. He did that. So no, ma'am, you're not a Build-A-Bear because you broke it off with a man, you broke his heart, and now he had to get back on his stuff. That's not how that works. That's not even the definition of being a person who's a Build-A-Bear. Oh, you gave him some ideas for content. You gave him some ideas for that next album, for his music. Oh, congratulations, ma'am. Whoop-de-doo. Go fucking break. But I know this is a very long podcast episode, but I wanted to make this podcast episode to just really be vulnerable and really just sit here with you and really just talk with you about this aspect with men that a lot of us men, we don't want to open up about because we are scared about how it might make us look. A lot of men will not talk about their emotions, refuse to. And I know some women who they get irritated with men who may not express themselves the best way that they know how. And you can't fault them because a lot of it has to do with some of the women in their life. Some men don't know how to express themselves properly because the people in their life don't even know how to express themselves properly. Now that's not to take away from accountability, but you got to look at things from a wider scope. If a man never been taught from his father or from his mother or from the people in his section, like his uncles and his aunties and grandmother and grandfather, if he never was taught how to express himself professionally, maturely, then what else do you really expect from him? It's like, whenever I, run into women, I always make sure I look at their relationship with their mother and father. Because most likely if the mother the mother is tripping, sometimes more likely than not, the daughter gonna be tripping too. And as much as the daughter try to disassociate themselves from the mother, as they get older and as they grow, they become their mother. Same thing and vice versa for some of the men. And so you have to really do some real internal self-work to really deal with some of the curses passed down from your parents so that you can renew yourself and really turn those imperfections that are in your parents that are within you and turn those imperfections into tools and sources for your life. Rambling. But like I said, I didn't have any notes. This is just something on my chest. I just wanted to get this out because I know there might be somebody out there who really needed to hear this message. Somebody out there who really just needed to hear this word. Somebody who just really needed somebody to relate to them in terms of their emotions. I know there might be a man out there, somebody around my age, who just really needed to hear this, that it's okay to feel. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. And I don't know if anybody has ever told you that. It's okay to cry. You don't have to cry in front of everybody. You could be to yourself and cry. But it is okay, nonetheless, to cry and to let it out and to look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of all your accomplishments. To look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I may not be perfect. I may not have it all together. I may have slipped up. I have flaws. I have things I need to work on. But you know what? I love every aspect of myself. That might be hard for you to say in the mirror. That might be hard for you to articulate and to really put into action, but it has to start somewhere. And I want to encourage you today to do that. I want to encourage you to really look at yourself and not only just make the change, but to love yourself. I challenge you, man or woman, to look at yourself in the mirror and just say, I love myself. Because a lot of us don't love ourselves. And because we don't love ourselves, we put out a lot more hatred and negativity in the world than we do love. Because we hate what we see in the mirror every day. So maybe if we take more of the time when we wake up and before we go to bed to really look at ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves that I love myself. I love every aspect of myself. I love my flaws. I love my insecurities. I love my shortcomings because along the way, there's just going to be opportunities for me to get over and up, for me to be at the peak instead of at the bottom. So hopefully I left something of some substance with you today. Till next time, I'm Tyrone. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. Hopefully, like I said, that you got something out of this podcast episode. Truly am grateful for all the people who take the time out to listen to my podcast episodes and take the time out to listen to the things that I have to say, because I do want to actually start being more vulnerable and share more stories and share more of these type of concepts and ideas and really get back to the core of my podcast episode and what's this for. The meaning of my podcast is for self-help. And I think a lot of men need self-help when it comes to their emotions. I think if they learn more of the emotional aspect of themselves, they will understand more of the emotional aspect of women. Bingo. The reason why men shun the emotions of women is because they shun the emotions of themselves. Oh, am I hitting a chord? Am I hitting something right now? The reason why men always talk about the emotions of women is because they shun their own emotions. And they never take the time out to deal with their own emotions. If they took the time out to deal with their own emotions, they would know how to deal with a woman when she's emotional. But because he don't know how to deal with himself on an emotional basis, he will never know how to deal with a woman on her emotional, on an emotional basis. But we'll leave it there. All right. Till next time, I'm Tyrone. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. Make sure that if you're on YouTube, make sure you like this video. Share this with a couple of friends or two, whatever the case is. If you listen to me on Spotify, make sure you like that video or you like the podcast. And turn on your notifications for my next podcast. Same thing on Apple Music as well. All right. Till next time. We out.